Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Claddercast, episode 135. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill.
And I'm Rory Summers.
We're all well-travelled gentlemen.
Holidays
are bound.
ain't.
I'm not.
You're not. You're not been on holiday, Steve.
I went to Devon for a day.
Was that with work?
No, actually, I went for 2 days for our wedding anniversary, but that was months ago now. That was July. That was months ago.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness, yes.
I went to Chipping Camden for a day.
That's not a
Yeah,
holiday.
then found out that we were all in Malvern.
Bloody Malvern.
True, yes, that's true. No, Sid and I have been further afield. We have been to Scotland.
We have. We've been on our yearly pilgrimage, Andy and I.
Indeed we have. To Mama Gill's with all the curry, and
We had a board gaming fest. Andy and I have been to Tabletop Scotland.
together.
Together.
Were you representing the PHC collective?
We were a thruple. We even had a Laura with us.
Representing,
Representing.
Jesus.
because we're street and all that.
So how was Tabletop Scotland then, gents?
It was really good, to be fair.
Bloody excellent. Yeah.
Really
very,
good,
very
as
good.
ever. Yes, I got there on the. It ran for 3 days 2.5 days this year. So it started on the Friday, and started at sort of 4 p.m. on the Friday. So it was basically just open gaming on the Friday. So there was no sort of stalls or anything like that. It was literally just turn up, plonk your stuff down, rush to the bring and buy if you're into that kind of thing, to just put your stuff in. You couldn't buy anything. But then it was just open gaming for all of the night until 11 p.m. And then it started proper on the Saturday morning at 9 and went through to 11 and then sort of finished on the Sunday at about, I think it was about 6, but we bailed by then because we had to go to Mull for the rest of my escapades. But yes, it was awesome. Lots and lots of space as ever. It felt very chilled. There was it wasn't mobbed. It never is. There's always room to manoeuvre. It doesn't feel like Expo where everyone's sort of being herded round like cattle. There's always places to go, and you're never squished in. There's always plenty of space between the R's and stuff, which is one of the hallmarks of TTS that we have come to love.
I think it's one of its USPs. Actually, it's very chill,
I
but
would
it's
agree.
got a good mix of open gaming. It's got a few like shops. It's got a couple of decent publishers were there. Yeah, it was all in all a really, really nice couple of days of gaming for Andy and I.
Indeed it was. We saw quite a few people that we know from the community, friends of the show and all that.
Indeed.
Mr. Mark Cook and Fran Wade from Bright Eyed Games were there representing them. We bumped into and potentially sought out Richard from We're Not Wizards. He was helping on the Hachette stand.
And how is Mr. Simpson?
He is in good form, or at least he was on the day, so...
Yes,
he's well. We saw lots of people, lots of friends of the show, so it was really... Oh, and James and Helen, they were playing Crokinole. So James from our Worcester board gaming group, they played in the Crokinole tournament there as well. Sadly, neither of them won. Helen got what was 1 point out from making, I think it was the semi-final, which is a shame. She was a little grumpy about that because there's only 1 point. But all in all, a really good sort of coverage of pretty much every type of game going, despite the relatively smaller size compared to sort of Aircon or UK Games Expo. But it was really good fun.
but despite its small size, it has outgrown its current venue.
True.
Oh, you were telling me rumours about this.
Indeed.
Well, in fact, Sue was telling me rumours about this because she was trying to instigate some kind of mass exodus for next year.
Indeed, she is, because Tabletop Scotland is now moving from its current location in Perth to the metropolis that is Edinburgh.
Indeed, yes. So no longer the DWAR Centre in Perth. It is now going to be. It's going to be the Highland Centre in Edinburgh. So it's basically near. I think it's the Highland Centre, isn't it? Just outside the airport in Edinburgh. So that's going to be It's going to be huge. Apparently bigger than Aircon. Apparently.
Right. Stupid question. Is this not a really bad time of year to go to Edinburgh? What with the Fringe Festival and the tattoo?
No, it's not so. So it's been cleverly thought out, boss man. So you cannot get anything, room space at all in Edinburgh in August.
Yeah.
At all. Ever. Impossible. So Tabletop Scotland will be the first weekend of September when everybody is available.
And back at school.
And back at school. But kids are already back. Kids are already back at school in
that's true, actually. Yeah,
in Scotland by that point.
But yes, they've moved it by a week or two, and just to sort of take all of that into account. And the good thing, I suppose, about the Highland Centre is it's right next to the airport, which means it's got excellent transport links. So you can literally get to it on the train. There's the shuttle from Edinburgh. There's the tram from the city centre as well. So it's really easy to get to, which is quite good.
So what date would that be? Sorry, in next year.
It's about the 7th
of September, I think, something like that.
7th and 8th of September is the first weekend of September.
Yeah.
Then. So there you
First
go.
full weekend. So, yeah.
Right.
I would say you heard it here first, but that, given our release schedule, that's almost certainly not true.
Well, I think it's been on the socials, mate. Yeah, 6th to 8th of September at the Royal Highland Centre in Ingliston.
See, now the only problem with this is, as I said, Sue was doing reconnaissance. So to let you all know, Sid's wife was actually messaging me and my wife of all the places she'd been in Edinburgh that she's looking at to see if we could go to while Tabletop Scotland was going on. And as far as I can work out, she got lost in the Vault City tap room.
Yes, she did.
And she'd never got heard of again.
Yeah. I haven't seen her since.
She did go quiet after that, actually. She sent us all a picture of the beer she was drinking, and then there was nothing.
The tasty beer, though.
It was,
that's going to be a problem, because last time I went to Edinburgh, I think we went to the Brewdog bar and another bar
Down on
and another
Cowgate.
bar. Yeah.
Cowgate is a dangerous place for the uninitiated.
It is indeed, yeah. It's a nice place to visit.
I don't think I've ever been to Edinburgh.
Well,
Right then.
Rory.
Well, next year, you've got a very good reason to go.
My excursions to Scotland have consisted of one mountain that I did in a rush as part of the Three Peaks Challenge. I can't remember. I stayed in a hostel nearish by, but I can't remember where it was.
Fort William. You'll have done it.
Yeah, I think we weren't in Fort William, but I don't think we were in Fort William. I think we'd had to travel in the morning. It was up I had to get up at 5 a.m. to then drive to the base of Ben Nevis and then go up it and down it in the space of what felt like half an hour.
And then you've got to drive 6 hours down the road
totally
to go
wasn't.
down Scarfell, haven't you?
We went then our driver went the wrong way.
Oh, no.
And then, so we spent hours trying to get to Wales.
I've never understood the appeal in that challenge. Let's spend a weekend driving around the UK and then getting turfed out and climb up a mountain and back again. And then back in the car to drive somewhere else.
The good thing is you have a driver, so you get back in the car after you mount, you just fall asleep, so you're actually all right.
In theory.
In theory. Anyway, we played a few games while we were there.
We did.
Bloody hope so.
Well, exactly. This is a gaming podcast, so we thought we'd spend some time playing some games rather than just, wandering around all the stalls and making a nuisance of ourselves. But the big one we played, I think, did we play this first? I think we did, didn't we?
No, we didn't. We
didn't.
started with a little gentle one with Bot Factory.
We did, yes. Or Baby's First Kanban.
Fisher Price Kanban.
Now, I'm interested about this because a little behind the scenes listeners, since the last recording, 3 of us have played full fat Kanban EV, which is the second edition of Kanban, isn't it?
Yes.
And we've all decided not to talk about it in the podcast because we need to play it again because it melted our tiny little minds.
Yes.
Now, this is an interesting snippet ready for that discussion, which may be in a couple of weeks or months or maybe even years by the time we get to the table. How did Bot Factory compare to the full fat experience, Sid? I'm not going to ask Andy because Andy will just go, it was just a pitiful light excuse of not using his brain cells compared to Kanban. But
Well,
Sid,
I think I enjoyed it more. But what I'm struggling to separate is that I enjoy it more because it was lighter than Kanban, and therefore more accessible than Kanban.
yeah, but advanced astrophysics with brain surgery in the other hand is easier than Kanban.
But also, there was a weird thing about Bot Factory. Felt a little bit more intuitive. Things joined together better for me, and how you were building robots, and the robots were cool little pieces. And the thing is, I'm now struggling. It's like when you go from really nice stuff, like really, it's probably this chili analogy again, isn't it, that we had a few weeks ago. It's going from like a super duper really complex flavor profile chili to then deciding, do you know what, I just want something out of a can because I'm in that kind of a mood today. And it felt really easy to get into, and I kind of felt it because we'd played Kanban just the week before, I think. It felt really quick and easy to start playing Bot Factory. That you could see all the same mechanics were there, just watered down a little bit easier to get your head around. Sandra was a bit more.
Probably explain how the game works. Before
we probably should,
well,
but it's.
I think we've got to keep this very light because you've got a very long list of games here, so we can't go in and explain every game in detail. But I think, we know that Sandra is a
she's a part of the
disruptive
game.
Element.
Person.
Disruptive element. But I think so just keeping it without going into the detail, I think I enjoyed Bot Factory, but I can't explain to you why I did, and I can't explain to you the relationship between enjoying Bot Factory and then how I found Kanban. It's too... Right. It's at the moment, I think I have to have that replay of Kanban again to really understand what I played. But Bot Factory, I felt, was a game that would come to a table more often than I think I could ever get Kanban to a table.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
I mean, Kanban needs exercises and stretching before you can put it out the table. It's not for the faint-hearted.
You need to warm up with Bot Factory, and then you should move on to Kanban. I agree.
I should have given you Bot Factory first, but never mind.
So speaking about other games that should have required warming up and stretching and remembering.
We did. We still did ourselves an injury, right? So the next thing we played, which is kind of hot shit at the moment, I think, and I've had this for a few months now since it was released, delivered from Kickstarter, is Hegemony. Now, this has been doing the rounds, I think, on social media for a little while, and has generally received, as far as I can tell, fairly positive praise. So we thought, right, we've got an opportunity now. We've got 4 people to sit down at a 2-day gaming convention. That should be plenty of time. Let's give it a whirl. We've got 4 players willing and able to play it. We prepped beforehand. So in Hegemony, you play one of 4 social classes. The capitalists, which Sid played. The middle class, which our friend Paul played. The working class, which Laura played. And the state, which I played. And the object of the game basically is to score points by doing things that are, I suppose, commensurate with that social order. So in Sid's case, he had to build lots of companies, make lots of money, which he scored him lots of points as he went through the game. I had to basically make everybody happy, but in equal measure, which is actually quite very difficult, especially when people keep robbing you and building stuff that I have to pay for without choice. But not that I've got to be in my bonnet about that. Alora had to basically put workers out as much as she could, so she needed lots of people. She needed people to build companies. So Sid, for example, because she scores points by getting people's workers out and getting them, she improved their wealth, basically, made them, bought them iPads and shit like that. And then there's the middle class who kind of filled the gap and produced, pumpkin lattes and apricot smash and all that sort of stuff, but also provided sort of small, sort of kind of high street boutique type of shops, which still had employees, but nothing on the scale of Sid's company. So, and throughout the game, there were crises which the state needed to deal with. You could change the political situation within the game that had a massive effect on things like tax and the cost of medical care and education, which was used to improve workers, which worked in the various establishments that could be made. So it all really flowed. It took us, I'm not going to lie, 7 hours to play. Yeah.
Ow.
No, but there is a very important bit of information here.
What, did you just go for lunch and a walk?
Of those, well, yes.
10-course tasting menu, but
the first 3 hours was the first round.
Of 5.
Oh my God! And he didn't bail after that.
We did consider it.
There was a lot of talk about it.
Laura considered it, but as it was her bloody idea, I forced her to stay. I said, "No, you're not getting away with this. This was your idea. We're staying till the end." So we did. Oh, and the thing is, we all did our homework because the rulebook is not light. It's about 36 pages long. Although to be fair, 10 of that is set up, and we all picked our classes ahead of time. We all read the rule book, I should say, about our social class, and the overall game worked as well. So we didn't go in cold. We all had a rough idea of what our bit needed to do. The problem is, you kind of need to understand what everyone else is going to do as well, which is what slowed it down. So it took us those 2.5 hours just to get used to how all the moving parts in the game fit together. After that happened, it was much, much smoother. And it still took a little while, obviously, another 4.5 hours. Although one of those was lunch, as Sid said. We went to get some noodles. But it did speed up the more we played of it. So I think if we played it again, I reckon we could probably get through it in about 3 hours.
Yeah,
if you played it with
think
four
that.
people.
I think
wow.
Knowing the mechanics, it makes such a difference.
Yeah. It's not a complicated game in the sense the mechanics aren't difficult. Literally, if you know what you're doing, you play a card to do the thing on the card. Next player. It's really that simple. But the effects that it has throughout the game, strategically, is actually quite difficult.
But you definitely need to understand what the other classes do, because it's so asymmetric, and you need to understand how, and I hate using this word, your class synergizes with the adjacent classes. And it's the right word.
Now as
it's
well?
annoyingly the right word to use in this situation.
I love the word synergize.
Are you going to leverage your synergy as well?
No, I'm not in a business development meeting.
But it was hard going. I'm not going to lie. Basically, obviously, because of the length of time it took. But I really enjoyed it.
See, the interesting thing is, I thought I was a bit weird. I didn't find it hard work.
No, neither did I. That's the thing. It just took too bloody long.
It took a long time, but I didn't feel I begrudged the time it took me at all. I was quite comfortable just playing it. And there's a few times, I think we got to about hour 5, and we had another, should we bail out of this game?
That was the end of round 4, yeah.
That was the end of round 4. And I think we kind of had a bit of a chat around the table about it, and in the end we decided, well, if we're going to bail out, we're effectively going to bail out with no winner in this game. Because one of the really interesting things about this game is it was constantly cat and mouse. It was really changeable. It wasn't like a huge dump of points appearing right at the end or anything like that. At the end of each round you had a scoring phase and all that kind of stuff. And it felt like some of the classes scored throughout the round, whereas some of the classes scored at the end.
Yes.
And it was really interesting to see how, who was in front, who was at the back, who was in the middle, and it just constantly evolved every round. So it would very much have been a game that we would have walked away from and not known who would have won.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I mean, I think I was in the lead by about 20 points for the entire game for about 4 of the 5 rounds. And at the end of the game, the IMF got involved because people keep robbing the government coffers. Basically tanked the state. The whole thing went to shit, and the capitalists took over and just walked away with it. And I ended up coming 4th.
Some might say that the state looked unfavourably on a huge part of its contributory base.
I did you a
Overtaxed
massive
them.
favour when what I should have done was pumped you and raised the tax by 80%. I didn't. I gave you 50 quid and you ruined me.
But what I thought was really clever about this game is how true to reality it was. The economics in it was like being in a university lecture on how the complexities of various classes, government, everything like that, how the economies of a country work. I mean, to the point where I think in the box, Andy, there's a set
homework.
of essays.
There are 3 academic essays in the book. You get an extra book, and it's got treatises on socioeconomics, economic policy, and social politics and stuff. There's 3, people from Oxford University and stuff, and also co-authored by the designer. So it looks like the designer's been to university, studied this, and has really sort of taken it on board and created, I'm not going to lie, a bloody good board game out of it.
It is it is absolutely brilliant. I mean, do your homework, but please try it. If you get the opportunity, give it a shot, and don't let the teacher put you off.
I've been intrigued by this game for some time, and then I saw it at Expo, and I was tempted to buy Expo, and I kept thinking, well, Andy's got it, I'm only
You
ever
don't
gonna
need to
play
buy it.
Andy.
I've got it. Seriously, don't.
You have cemented that I'm only ever going to play this with you, but it sounds like you really need to play with 4 players as well to really
Very
get
much
the
so.
most out of it.
You can play it solo and with 1, 2, or 3 or 4 players. There's like Automas in the bot, although to be fair, that's actually part of the expansion that I got with the Kickstarter. But if you play it with 2, it recommends you play Capitalist versus the
I think you have
class.
to. I don't think you have a choice.
Yeah, and then the 3rd player is the middle class, and then the 4th player is the state, and that's essentially how it works. And it positions you around the table in that sense as well. And there are rules that basically says, if the state is here, do this. If there's not, then just ignore it and move on. It's literally well constructed. And and Sid and I were talking about this afterwards, and sometimes we find a gem of a game that goes against a lot of criticism where, the theme and the mechanics don't go together. It's just a slapped-on theme. You could basically make it about anything. It doesn't matter. You could not change Hegemony's theme. You could not change its mechanics without completely making a new game. It is that well meshed.
It is a beautifully combination of game, of theme, of the whole setting around it is just, it's fantastic. It really is a good game.
I really want to play it again. I've been wanting to play it again ever since, just to go through it again. Because despite the length of it, and again, it'll be a lot less if we play it again. It's brilliant because there's so many things that we could have all done better because it was all for our first time. It's the same with every game, but the effect it would have on the game is so immense that just the change of one small change of policy can have an enormous effect on one of the players. So there's this continual push and pull because in every vote that happens to change policy, there's always or usually at least 2 people in favour and at least 1 or more against it, because each policy will only really benefit 2 or 3 of the 4 players. So there's always going to be somebody's like, no, I don't want that. That's stupid. That buggers me. But it changes depending on which policy it is. So sometimes the middle class and the state will be on the same side. Sometimes the state and the capitalists will be on the same side. Sometimes the middle class and the capitalists will be on the same side because they're the ones who hold the business. The working class and the state obviously want to keep education and business and health and stuff free, but everyone else wants to charge for it. It's so well done. It really is. The meshing and the way it interweaves together is just so clever.
So that's all you played all weekend, I assume, then?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's honestly genuinely what we played most of Saturday. Bot Factory. Then we played Hegemony. Now, we had a quick game of Android Infiltration, which is quite an old game now, but Sid hadn't played it before. We were basically frazzled after Hegemony. I said, I'll tell you what, let's play a fairly straightforward game. A bit of a tech heist. Let's do this. We run in, we run out. I think Sid and I got lifted by the police, and Elora got out, so that was fun.
I think that what happened is we got to floor 2 and then we doubled down and we went.
Yes, we did.
We're not getting out, so
And
we're
it
just
didn't
going to
work.
chase all the
We
way
were
through.
searching for an exit that did not exist.
Interestingly, me, Andy and Laura played Android Infiltration a few weeks back, and that's exactly what happened. Andy and Laura doubled down, and I cheated out the exit like £5 in my pocket, and I still won because even though I had a fiver, it was more than anyone else.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Pretty much
It's a
the game
great
we
game.
had.
It's a really well-made game, is Infiltration. I've had it for years. Only played it for the first time a few months ago when one of our friends brought it to our gaming group on a Thursday. I was like, I've got this. So I ended up playing it. Like, this is really good.
It's a very good game, yeah.
And then, so that was the Saturday. And then the Sunday, Sid had his family, so he did sort of kids things, which I'll let him talk about. And then I did a little bit of schmoozing. As well as playing Great West.
Do I want to know?
Yes, it was with Mr. Mark Cook and Mr. Fran Wade. They were doing a bit of bright-eyed game sort of prototyping. So they were basically given a bunch of prototype games. They were basically just going through them to see whether they were worth playing, whether they were taken further, the usual business stuff. And I sort of sat down having a bit of a chat with them, had a few games. And I played a couple of games with them. One called County Fair, which is a push-your-luck game. So you're at County Fair, you're doing a bunch of rides, you draw a card, and it's got 4 sections on it. And you can keep pushing your luck up to 4 times. And so each time you draw a card, you move essentially 1 section up a card. So you put them in a long line, a bit like a train. But the more cards you draw, the more extended your train becomes. So instead of having it like 3 overlapping, for example, if you pick the first card every time, if you pick the second card, it would be two lumps overlapping. If you pick the third card, it would be 3 lumps. And if you put the fourth card, it's literally 2 cards together. It's probably easier if I show you. But anyway, the point is, the longer your train is, the less chance you've got of winning, because the person who spends the longest time in the fair, which is basically what that means, is not going to win. So a bit like high society, if you're left with all the money, if you're left with no money, sorry. That was kind of fun. That was a prototype game that they were looking through. We played Five Towers, which is still a prototype, but it was bloody awesome, and I was terrible at it. The idea is you've got to build 5 towers out of different materials, but they're all numbered, and you can only put a lower number on top of a higher number. And there's an auction, and it's essentially a bid. So you're like, I would like 4 cards of the 5 there, and somebody says, no, I want all 5. Then take all 5, and then you've got to put them down. But there's rules to how you can put them down, and where you can put them, and there's some rules. Some cards can be put on top of others, and blah 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 blah. And that was kind of fun as well. So we enjoyed that. Great Western Trail Argentina, mostly the same as the base game, but it has a couple of interesting twists on it. There are cow wranglers in there as well that you can add to your tableau, as well as like the standard 3 sets of workers. You got the sort of the cowboy, the train driver, and the builder. There's a 4th one, but you're basically like you're hiring, instead of negotiating with the natives in Great Western Trail like you do in the base game, you can actually hire them to the sort of locals and bring them on board, and they have an effect on sort of grain. So there's sort of foreign markets and foreign ports that you can, instead of sending your cows to, say, San Francisco, you send them off on boats to Europe. And every now and again through the game, these boats sail away, and there's another opportunity basically to score. You can put a token over there and it'll give you some points, basically. So you can do that through the game. And there's also a really clever element to it where, you know, the train advances in the base game and you basically get points depending on where it ends up. The train goes around the board the same, well, actually the opposite way, which is very confusing.
Southern Hemisphere, mate, that's why.
That's it. But the way the path goes through the board as well. Every now and again, there's a shortcut that hits the railway track. So instead of going through all of the people that stop you, you have to pay money. If your train has got far enough around the track, you can start use the shortcuts to get your cows to the sort of drop-off point without having to pay loads and loads of money, which I thought was a really clever idea.
Interesting. To be fair, that's the one I've really wanted to try. I've not heard much. That's Argentina.
That's Argentina.
It's Argentina. Sorry, I just didn't want to try, but I've heard a lot of good things about the next one.
So have I. New Zealand.
one.
Yes, so have I.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't like the artwork on Great Western Trail New Zealand, Argentina. I thought it was a bit washed out, and it was crappy for colour blindness. And also, there were 3 colours of anchors on to basically mark these foreign ports. One's a sort of pale grey, which is fine. The other 2 are black and really, 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 really dark brown. All of the colours in the world. No, I know. Let's pick 2 that look pretty much the same from across the table. What a great idea. But other than that, it's basically Great Western Trail with a few tweaks. So it's pretty good. It is a decent game. I think that's probably enough from me.
Sid.
Well,
Games.
as Andy says, I had a very different day on my Sunday. You know, having gone Hegemony had toasted me on the Saturday. So I brought the family with me, met up with some friends that I already knew in Perth, and we had a bit of a family day playing games, which was really cool at Tabletop Scotland, because I don't know if you guys know about Rent, Shuffle and Roll.
No.
It's kind of the love film for board gamers.
Oh, okay.
So remember the old days when you'd get a DVD off Love Film, or you'd subscribe and put a load of games on your list, and then you'd get a game delivered to your house. Yeah. That's what it is. So it's basically a games library that you get a board game delivered to your house. Anyway, they're always at Tabletop Scotland and run a board gaming library. Oh. So you get a library card, you can search the shelves, pick a game, go off and play it. Really good selection of children's games, grown-up games, all sorts of games. Anyway, so we spent a lot of our time doing that with the boy and a couple of other friends. And had a really good time. We had a couple of random, really children's-y games, but really good fun. Ones with penguins, which had magnets on one side, and a mummy chasing little penguins around, called Pyramid of the Penguin.
Oh, Pyramid Penguin.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, loved it. It's a really good game, because one of you's a mummy on, it's literally, you've got like a metallized board that sits between the one player and the others playing. You've got 4 penguins and 1 mummy, and on the player side you've got 5 little magnetic tokens which obviously stick to the board, and then on the other side where the mummy is, you've got like a big magnet, so you as the mummy have to move around and chase after the the penguins who are trying to get all the treasures on the other side of the board. And it's really tell you what, we had a 4 or 5 games on it because all the kids wanted to try being the mummy. Originally I thought, they're not going to want to do the mummy because they can't see anything, but that's all they wanted to do. So it was a really, really good game. Catapult Kingdom, which is literally throwing rocks at each other across a table.
Yeah.
You build up little castles, like little plastic castle things at either side, put your little men on top of the castles, and then you've got a catapult with rubber bands, so it's a proper functioning mini catapult thing, little rocks, and fling rocks at each other. Simple, beautiful. And then we introduced our friends to Stomp the Plank, and that was it. They wouldn't leave. They just, the daughter just wanted to keep going back to it. So I stand by my praise for that game.
Fantastic game that is.
PHC Game of the Year at this rate.
It's a game that I said before doesn't deserve to be as good as it is. It is just value. It is brilliant. Mm-hmm. We had a go at the new exhibition quest for Cora Quest from Mark Cook and Bright Eyed Games.
What on earth do you mean by exhibition quest?
So it's like a 15-20 minute adventure.
So your kids can specifically for conventions.
Right, okay. You can literally sit down, and it's Slippery Jim is the big bad guy. It's really simple. You kind of it's really just a nice tight little story and adventure for the kids. Okay. So sat the Sue and the boy and our pals down, and they just had to go through it and really stepped away from it quite happy.
Nice.
So yeah, we had a really nice simple day on Sunday, compared to the brain burner that was Saturday.
Yes. Very nice counterpoints to each day. I think it was good. And a bit of a wander around. So I
had a mooch around the
local businesses.
Yeah. I think that's what's quite nice about Tabletop Scotland. It doesn't have the hustle of Expo. I can't compare it to Aircon. I haven't been, so I don't know how that marries up. Andy, you can probably comment better on that.
It's definitely smaller in terms of the number of stalls. Well, I think this year seemed to be bigger with the number of stalls. There was definitely more to look at this year compared to last year. Aircon, I think there's actually fewer stalls. Well, actually, this year was pretty busy. This year there were more stalls, although they were tucked away because we changed the venue. So it's probably similar size in terms of vendors, but there's a lot more gaming space at Aircon. Because it was a lot much bigger. But they had similar feels, but I think Tabletop Scotland's a lot less stressful.
Yeah, that's what I feel. It just seems really relaxed.
Yeah, it really was. Everyone was in a good mood. You could always get around. You weren't falling over each other's feet. No, it was good. It's a really good, great convention. Heartily recommended.
The only thing I'm kicking myself for, and I need you three to remind me, and I need the listeners to remind me, next year I need to sign up for an RPG slot because I missed out. And I didn't get to play anything, and I really, really wanted to.
How early do we have to remind you to actually be able to do that?
Now,
January.
Sid, sign up for an RPG slot. There, done.
I think we should
I
add
have absolved of responsibility.
We should add it to the show notes so I don't forget at the bottom. Every time I get to the bottom, I should go check it.
I'm being serious, but I was like, at what episode, roughly, what month next year do we need to remind you and our listeners who are going to go to Tabletop Scotland?
Well, this is the thing. I reckon we'll be making our prep to go 6 months ahead now because it's Edinburgh. It's becoming a bit of a bigger thing. You only need a couple of days either side to enjoy the treats of Edinburgh. So it's
the aforementioned Vault City tap room, for instance.
That would be one of them, Mr. Tudor, indeed. But so you got to plan all these things in. So I think 6 months ahead. So I think it's going to be a February-ish time to make the plans. I reckon. Okay.
I think I already know plans are already afoot because Sue's starting to organise stuff, which means there'll be itineraries will be written before the end of the year,
which won't be followed, Steve, as it is.
Yes, I know. That's even more interesting. There'll be itineraries, hopefully a selection of hotels as well, but that's the important one. We haven't just played games at Tabletop Scotland. We've also played some other games because that's what we do. Play games and we talk bollocks about them.
Steve, that is exactly what we do now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is exactly what we do.
Kicking arse and playing games.
I go over to Steve's house on a Monday and we play games all night.
Nice.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Get loads of games in.
One of the games one of the games we were sent to review, which is a rare thing these days, I must admit. But we were sent to review a copy of Barcelona from Board and Dice. Now, this is not one of Board and Dice's tea-based games, but you can tell it's in the same kind of market. It's not quite as complex, perhaps, but a good medium-weight Euro-y type game. Ticking all the board game reviewer terms there. This is a game in which you are building the title city of Barcelona, and you're doing this by placing down not workers, but citizens. So every turn you will have 2 citizens with a little really chunky cardboard discs, which represent lower, middle and upper class citizens going into Barcelona. And what you've got is you've got a grid map in front of you, and it's just like a street grid map. And you place your little stack of 2 tokens on a corner, on a junction where 2 streets meet. And the thing is, where those streets are, you have, I think it's 4 streets across and 4 streets down, and those represent actions. It might actually be 5 and 5, come to think of it. But they represent actions. So where you place your little chip peeps is where the 2 actions you will do, one from the column and one from the row. There is also a street running diagonally across the board, which you have to pay some resource to use, and that allows you to take this extra action. So you'll do 3 actions that round rather than 2. Where the game gets quite interesting is after your turn, if there are 2 or more of these little stacks of people around one block, it's just a typical street block system, then you have to build there. And this involves placing one of 3 levels of buildings. You'll get some victory points for doing so, and play will carry on. But as you do that, these workers come off and go on these little tracks at the bottom. And these little tracks determine how long the game takes, basically. They're the thing that keep the game moving. And after so many turns, you'll come to an end of a round. 3 rounds, you come to the end of a game. There's also some little mini objectives, which are all randomised. So you might get bonus points for building the most... I've got different. There's different things you can build as well. It's not just about building the streets. You can build tram tracks, which go on the board, which go in colour. You can build intersections for your trams. You can get cash. There's a plethora of little mini games off to the side. Some make sense, which is the trams. Building tram tracks. Some make no sense. I'm building mosaic at some points, just putting tiles off one board onto another. There's also I can never pronounce this right, the famous cathedral in Barcelona, and everyone's looking at me blankly because they've all forgotten the name of it as well.
What's it called?
Tumbleweed. No one can remember the Barcelona cathedral. Man looked up thing on internet, first person to Google, fastest fingers wins.
The Basilica.
The Basilica. Sagrada de la I Temple Expiatory de la Sagrada Familia. Something like that.
There we go.
Multicultural Sid there.
So that's another little thing which gets you extra points. There's a little track that goes on the top of your player board, which means as you build this, you actually have like 4 tiles which show this being built, and you get extra points for that. It's an interesting little game, but what was really fascinating about it is it goes at one hell of a pace. Because your options each turn are relatively simple. You're going to be limited about where you can place these people, because you can't place them on top of people that are already there. But you're going to want certain actions, and generally what actions you want to take may dictate that. The other interesting thing is you can build even if you didn't create a building spot. So you can't try and save a build and hide it. Everyone has to look around the board at the end of your turn and make sure you haven't missed a build spot. So buildings can happen all the time, and sometimes you want to take advantage of them, and sometimes you don't, because you want something else juicier elsewhere. But that means the game just keeps moving. And it seems like it's a blink of an eye, and at the first end of the first round, you get the first scoring of objectives, and then before you know it, the game is over. And it has got some decision points which seem to slow down, where you really have to think, what are we going to do? But for a Euro type game, it moves pretty damn quick, which is really cool. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a very clever game. It felt quite different to most other games in our collections. I didn't think it was too complicated. I think I was able to teach the rules to all 3 of you, because all 3 of you played this on 2 separate occasions.
Yes.
Able to teach the rules pretty quick, and I think we all got in there pretty quick as well.
Yes.
We did. I remember being quite surprised at how easy it was to get into. Not to say the game is easy or light, it's just having played a Danny Garcia game previously, Arborea from Alicat Games, I was expecting this to be more complicated. But I was quite happy about how quickly I picked this up. Obviously, Steve nearly doubled my score, but I knew that was happening, and I understood why he was losing.
I would say as well, this is a game where you score for doing absolutely everything.
Yeah.
It feels that no matter what you do, you get some points, which meant that actually me and you were about neck and neck until about 2/3 of the way through the game. It was only
in that
on this
second
last
age,
round.
I think the second the score, the bonus score for the age 2, you did exceptionally well at, and I did quite poorly at, and you took that lead, and I could never catch up with you.
So it does feel a bit weird at first, because it's one of those games where you get the 100 points going around the board, and you get your little token for your 100, your 200, your 300, your 400, and you're like, we're not going to need a 400 token, surely. Yeah, I think everyone was on like 250 was about the average score, I think, between the two games.
I did enjoy this game. I think it's interesting you said it doesn't feel like anything else that's in our collection. And I think this felt a lot like Merv that you and I had played the week before, which is also about building a city.
I thought this was, after your description of Merv, when Steve put down Barcelona, for some reason in my head, I thought, oh, this is the thing that Rory talked about and got pumped at. But no.
It was a different game I got pumped
Only
at.
50% right.
Different game you got pumped at. But yeah, I thought this was the one where you put the two things down in the middle, and it obviously got more and more complicated as you went through, but obviously a different version of that. But yes.
Do you know what? I see where you're coming from, Rory, but I felt these two, Merv and this, felt very different to me. I think Merv was a layer of complexity higher. Because to score points, you couldn't just score points for doing things. You had to have workers in the right place to score points. The way in which workers actually got your actions was more. I thought was more complicated. I think, and again, actually no, the way it moved was actually quite quick. Yeah, because you had a limited number of actions.
Yeah, it was over.
So I can see the similarities there.
There are differences. Yeah. Like Merv has all the tracks that you have to go up, and how they interlink, and how they kind of have these interdependencies. That's not there at all in Barcelona. And Barcelona has some other different things, and it has the round score, the round bonuses. So there are some really key differences, and I think you could justifiably have both of these in your collection because they do different things. But the kind of the core bit of it for me felt very similar. But I enjoyed Barcelona. I don't know. I think my thing with Barcelona, to kind of piss on the chips, is I don't know how often I'd want to replay it. I don't know if it's going to differ significantly between game 1 and game 5, whether I'm going to see that much of a difference.
We kind of felt the same way, actually, Rory, when we played it. Now, I enjoyed Barcelona, don't get me wrong. I feel kind of the same way. I did enjoy it. I mean, I did terribly at it, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was quite clever, especially the track bit. You can see, how close to the end of the game you get, and that's quite clever. And the way that you can kind of plan how the workers go, where to build and stuff. But I think I agree with you. I think I've seen pretty much all of what Barcelona can do now. That's the problem. I mean, I'm sure I can do better and be more efficient at what I did. But I poked everything. There wasn't anything I didn't do. Like in the really heavy games, like in the Turksy games is a great example. There's always something that you won't do. You have to choose 3 of the 4 or 4 of the 6.
That's why I think Merv is a heavier game, because Merv, there's 2 things in Merv I didn't even touch because I agree with you. In Barcelona, you are kind of doing a bit of everything, can't you? You they talk about the points salad, or we've nicknamed it the points buffet. Everyone's going and have a bit of everything, aren't they, on this one? Yeah. Everyone is, No, I can see that criticism. That makes sense.
Conversely, for me, I still felt there's more I could have done in it. Because I know there was chunks of the player board that I didn't interact with. I just binned off. Like the whole cathedral bit, I didn't really bother with that. My tram, I never bothered getting my tram out till really late. So I didn't open up much of that.
So what we're saying is we didn't poke all of the game, and what we've just said for the last 2 minutes is completely undermined.
No, I think what I'm saying is that I've played enough similar games of this type that I've got individually those elements present. But for me, there was still an accessibility to this game which I haven't found in other games, and I would want to go back and try it again. There is more I want. I would like another play of Barcelona, because there's still, for me, there's a chunk of the game that I don't think I've poked at.
So I played with Rory separately to you guys, and I didn't feel like I was just turning the handle when I played it the second time. I mean, was I massively changing my strategy? Well, one of the things I did in the second game is I randomised the action spaces, because that's one of those games where you have set action space on the board and you can randomise them afterwards. And I did do a couple of things where I thought I would try and improve on what I did the first time, like use the tram a lot more.
Yeah, we didn't use the tram. I think when we played, neither of us used it until about halfway through when we figured out what you use the tram for, and it becomes, that's really good. And it's same with the cathedral, as you were saying. We didn't use the cathedral either. And that's something we didn't focus on. But I think if I did play it again, I would do those things. But then if I played it a third time, would I find anything different between game 3 and game 2, other than the people I'm playing with, and hopefully a slightly higher score?
I mean, that's fair.
I did the tram and the cathedral thing quite well, but I didn't get any of the bonus tiles at the end. You know, the ones that score you points at the end of the game. I didn't get any of them, which is why I got stuffed.
Yeah.
Because rather stupidly, I thought, I'll be all right, I'm doing really well in the other bits, so I could probably leave that out and the game will be balanced enough that I don't need to touch them. Andy was wrong on that score.
Yeah. Those bonus tiles really changed the game, because for me, I wasn't really sure where my strategy was going till the second age. And then suddenly a couple of tiles came out, which, given what I'd randomly poked around at in the first age, gave me a route towards... Did I come second or something? I can't remember. I came all right out at the end of it. And it was the multipliers just played out right. The bonus tiles played out right, so I was doubling down on and pulling a strategy in round 2 rather than in the first stage.
Interestingly, both times we played, no one properly used the intersections. And everyone kind of cottoned on there towards the end of the game. Maybe I should have built more intersections because they're really powerful.
Interestingly, like when we played, Steve, you and I built some intersections. I built intersections quite early, but I built them in really, really bad places, not understanding how they were useful. And then because I've wasted previous, and you don't get many actions really in this game, so I was a bit chagrined with that. But I would like to play this again, because now that I know how to play, I don't think it's take very long to play. Because did we play 2 games that night, Steve? Did we finish Barcelona and then just get another game out?
Yeah, we did. I can't remember what it was now, but yes, we played it about an hour and a half.
Because we were surprised at how quickly Barcelona went. It was good, which was really nice actually, because you got a really nice amount of crunch in a really good short space of time.
Fair, yeah.
I think that's a good summary of it.
So thumbs up mostly.
Yeah.
Thumbs up with a couple of caveats.
Yeah. That's rare on this show, isn't it? We all
Four of
agree.
us vaguely agreeing with each other.
all agree.
Yeah.
The heat's getting to all of us.
Well, I think we should move on to something which I'm not sure you will all agree on.
Okay. Well, we can talk about something that we're definitely not going to agree on this one.
Oh, yeah. So we are talking about the game which was, at the time, one of our Games of UK Games Expo.
Yes.
Which is Beast. Now, we'll mention it now, partly because it is hitting GameFound on
the 13th?
I think it's the 19th of September. That's 13 days' time, Rory.
That's the number. That's where I got
19th,
13 from.
Yeah.
Okay.
It might actually be the 20th. I'm not sure because I can't work out.
That doesn't add up. It's only the 5th today. You lot can't do maths. My punch on the 18th. So someone's numbers are way off.
It's the 19th.
Right.
It's 13 days and 18 hours in which it launches. Okay. So it's going to launch. It's going to launch on a Tuesday because all Kickstarters must launch on a Tuesday.
Tis the law.
It is because Jamie Stegmaier worked out apparently this is an optimum time to do it, and everyone jumped on this, and no one never launches the Kickstarter any other day apart from Tuesday now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yes, this is also a review copy. We picked up a review copy at Expo. Mm-hmm. This is the game given to us, and I think it's the X demo copy because it was a point. Yeah. It's the X demo copy because I looked at one point and goes, Rory, you might have, this is a dirty word, you might have to sleeve this, it's getting a bit warm. And Rory goes, it is the demo copy, it didn't get handled very well. Oh, right, fair enough then.
How many times have you played this? Like
400.
400? It's how the backs
really
of the
rubbish
cards
card
stock.
stock. No, it's the X demo one. It was smashed for 3 days solid.
Grubby fingers,
Expo crud as well.
Burgers, bacon.
But
And that was just Andy.
But I've played this game now several times, so I've got a much more informed opinion than we did when we did our post-Expo preview. Steve, I brought my mate Tim round. Tim, Steve, and I. We played 2 games in a night, back to back, within the space of about 3.5 hours. And so Beast it's a 1 versus many game. Some people would call it a hidden movement game. I would call it a translucent movement game because I like being technically accurate here.
It is more accurate to say that. I think it is. Because
the beast, you are a monster and you are terrorizing the town, and you've got various different missions, but ultimately you are trying to kill villagers, I think is the most obvious one. It's the one that you should really start playing with. And the hunters are the monster hunters that the villagers have recruited to come and stop the beast. And their job is to track it down by kind of actually working out where it is, where it might be, following the tracks, and then just attacking and killing it. And you do this all through a draft mechanic. So we've got every character has their own specific set of action ability cards. Then there are these generic cards which have a top and a bottom half. One the top is for the hunters, the bottom is for the beast. You get these cards, you assemble your hand, passing them on, so you're very aware of what information, what abilities you're giving to your opponent, and if you're on the hunter, what you're going to pass between you, so you can have some synergy between yourselves. Do you like that, Sid?
Very much like it's twice in the same episode.
Twice.
Honestly, I feel like I'm undergoing some kind of performance review now.
We've got to line up our ducks for that first, and the low-hanging fruit.
Jesus Christ.
We'll have to put a pin in that and circle back later.
Yeah, all right, okay. Getting straight to it now. The beast has this hidden movement aspect of it. So they will play cards on a compass point to say how they are moving around the map. They will then reveal themselves to attack some of the wildlife that is there. So that's sheep, boars, and bears that all have different levels of health. They all give them different grudge or gold. You then turn that money, those grudge points, into abilities, and it's something that the beast really needs to do. They start the game actually quite weak. They need to rapidly build up their stockpile of abilities and their powers so that they're far more formidable and can do more, essentially dish out more damage faster. They then hide and they have to run away while the hunters essentially converge on that location and try and work out where it is. That, in a nutshell, is the game. It is a very simple game, all told. It's actually very rules light. You're playing a card, you'll play a red card and a blue card. If you want to play 2 cards, that's how you do it. You do what it says. It's move, you attack, you search, you might gain an item. It's then the other person's go. It's that simple. I, having played this several times now, do really enjoy this game. And the main reason I like this game is because every game I play tells a really interesting, dramatic story. And that's what I get at the table when I play this. And that's what I like. I like it. It's not perfect. It's not the best game ever, but it's a really good experience and it's a really good story every time I play it.
I get the feeling Mr. Tudor is about to explain why it is not the best game ever, judging by the look on his face.
I have one thing to say about this game. I bloody love this game.
Yeah.
I think this game is amazing. And I thought actually last night I had an epiphany as I think why, right? Yeah. So last night Rory came over and we actually played Journeys in Middle-earth. And if anyone's got an older FFG game, Fantasy Flight Games game, you used to get a little catalogue, right? And so I was flicking through the catalogue last night and getting a bit all teary-eyed for the lost Fantasy Flight games. You know, how many games I absolutely loved about them. And we even talked about my favourite game ever is Eldritch Horror. And I just thought to myself, this is a game that fills that FFG void. If FFG had released this game 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been surprised. It would have fit right in their wheelhouse. And it's got all the kind of hallmarks of that style of game. And it reminded me just how much I loved FFG of 5 years ago. You're right, it's a translucent movement game. Yeah. I know it's a silly word terminology, but it's right, because you don't move like halfway across the board. You move 2 or 3 spaces before the hunters manage to catch you down. It's a game in which the balance is awful.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. This game is the balance is all over the place. I mean, we played 2 games after one each other. The first game, I played the beast first. I had no idea what I was doing. I made a mistake in setup.
You did, yeah.
Yet I lost the game in one round. One more round, I probably could have won.
Yeah.
Second game, I absolutely trounced everyone because I'd managed to power up a couple of things.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things we actually called it because it's like, there is no way Steve's not going to win here. But if the players had got one more power up the other way, it would have gone in the complete opposite direction.
So it's really swingy.
It was just, it's really swingy, but it didn't feel swingy. That felt like part of the fun. It's like, it's a game in which you've got to try and rebalance it. The way I thought of is like the old Blood Rage, my thoughts on Blood Rage.
An Eric Lang kind
of
balance.
Eric Lang thing. Yeah, in which, out of the box, if you try and play this as a balanced game, if you try and play it as a Euro game, it's not going to work. You've got to swing that balance in your favour to make it to do it. I mean, how many scenarios in the base box?
I think there's 4 in the base box, but you go online. They've got an app. You scan the QR code in the rulebook, and it takes you to a smorgasbord of them that you can print out that were generated as part of the Kickstarter by the designers, or other people have done them, and they've been kind of peer reviewed, and they're there. And it's just they just tweaks on the scenarios. It was. I'm just trying to think now. You won that second game because a really dramatic moment. I think Tim and I had worked out that Steve was going towards this villager to kill them, and my hero ran off after them to go kill the monster and start of a new day, and Steve just turned around and killed me. At the beginning of day 2, Steve did that, and I didn't see it coming, and neither did Tim. We were just like, what? That's it? And at that point, we knew that we had lost because that's 50% of the hunters gone.
Yeah. And then he came back. It was 50% of the hunters gone for that day.
I was gone for that day, so I wouldn't come back to it. But it utterly crippled the hunters. And it was really dramatic because Steve could have just gone after the villager. Steve could have just run away from me and hidden or anything like that. But Steve balanced that game because the hunter... The monster, the beast, starts the game on the back foot. They start the game on the back foot, and you have to run, you have to kill stuff, you have to get your grudge points up by the end of the first day so that you can buy stuff. And if you haven't done that, you are probably going to lose.
It's a game where when you start the game, everyone feels like the other team is overpowered.
Yes.
As the beast, you feel like the hunters can gang up on you, and you got 3 brains or 2 brains against 1, and they can synergize, and they can actually discuss before they choose which cards, and they can be really mean, and they can decide which cards you get. Basically, the draft.
Let's not give Steve any attack cards this time.
Yeah. So I started the game with no attack cards, and I need to attack. That's a problem. But at the same time, the hunters. This beast is popping up, and you think he's in one of 3 spaces. I mean, I don't know exactly which one he's in, and I've got to waste an action finding out which of those 3 spaces he's in so I can attack him or pin him down or something like that. So you're there going, this beast is well overpowered. He can kill me easily.
Well, you said, it's interesting you said, the attack. So, Tim and I literally did that. We was like, let's not pass any attack cards to Steve. So he's only got his 1 attack card, which is his beast ability. But the problem with that is then that Tim and I have got loads of attack cards. But if you don't know where the beast is, or are not in the same space as the beast, you can't attack. So by withholding these cards, I've actually filled my hand with useless stuff. Because now I'm just going to burn a card to move. And then hope I'm going to find Steve, and then I can attack him with these other 5 attack cards I've got. The rulebook's clunky. Some of the it is a little bit fiddly in places, I think. But it's just it's just fun. It's just a fun game.
Just fun. And if you overthink it, you'll think it's crap.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. Enjoy it.
Yeah. This is, for me, it's kind of, it's interesting you say it's like the FFG for 5 years ago. It's a little bit like Who Goes There. in that if you put too much thought into it, if you try and think about why the game is good mechanically, if you try and take it apart and put it back together again and assess it for all its individual qualities and components, you'll be left a little bit like, really? But if you just go into it and if you just get into that game and have a good laugh with it, it's great. And that's, yeah.
I think like the first game of those two ones we played, I was starting to get a bit annoyed with it because I felt like I couldn't do what I needed to do, and it was only towards the end of that first game when it twigged about this whole thing of like the game is unbalanced and you've got to try and rebalance your strategies. Yeah. But yeah, the base game came with 4 monsters, 4 beasts. Sorry,
I think it's more than 4 beasts, but yeah, but
is it 4? Anyway, the expansion's coming out, which has got like I think another 4. It's got miniatures instead of standees. So the base game at the moment has got standees, which looks absolutely beautiful because I absolutely love the artwork for this as well. I think this has got some absolutely beautiful artwork, but they've actually introduced minis for everything that's in the expansion stuff.
Do you know what? I actually prefer the acrylic standees to the miniatures.
In the base copy I've only got the cardboard standees, but the acrylic standees that we had at the expo, and which I think are also available in this new pledge that's coming up, the new campaign, I would go with the acrylic standees because they really pop. And they really, because it's quite dark, the board, having that cardboard, but on the acrylic, they just seem to really stand out a lot more.
Agree. There's a good lot of contrast, and I don't need any more miniatures to paint because I've got thousands of bloody things. So I'd go with the acrylics. And the acrylics really did. Even on the demo table when we were looking around, sort of the media night, it just looked really, really crisp and clean on the table. It looked really good.
But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed Beast. I'm glad we've got that review copy. I have played it, I think 4 or 5 times now, and I will happily play it another few times this year because it's good fun.
I liked it. I'd like to play it again. Because I only played it at Expo and you bastards have played it more times. But, in 13 days and 18 hours.
So, that'll do us for today. Thank you very much for listening. We have been Polyhedra and Collider. Please give us a review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. You can also find us on Facebook, X, Board Game Geek Guild 2726, or just look for Polyhedra and Collider. We have a reasonable full mailbag, but please send us more questions because more questions are always good. Until next time, tatty bye and happy gaming.
Ta-ra.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.